Okay, I'm not sure how audible this is going to be because I'm walking on the side of the road, so we'll see though. So, I've read the about and the introduction to Randy Alcorn's book, and I gotta say, starting off, I do have a little bit more respect for him, because the about page starts off with a lot of cars driving by. It starts off saying to test his thoughts, make sure they're scriptural and everything. And I gotta say, I have a lot of respect for him for that, because he could easily just do this and say, this is what it is, this is how it goes, there's no way around it. And he doesn't do that, so props to him. But at the same time, and on that note, because of that, I have a little bit more respect for him, and he seems to have good intentions with this book. But on that, the best of intentions aren't necessarily a good thing, and necessitating that it's a good thing. Because also, I'm sure at some point, so I'm looking at my notes, trying to walk, not get hit by cars at the same time. I'm pretty sure that Benny Hinn and Joel Osteen also started off with the best of intentions, and yeah. Plus, Scripture's so easy to take out of context, but we'll go on a chapter by chapter basis on what he does there, just because I've already found things that kind of refute what he says. But that was the one thing he did say in his about section, was that the best part about heaven is being with God. And I'm glad to hear him at least say that, because from what I heard when I originally started doing this, he didn't seem to insinuate that. So it's a good thing to hear right there. So after that, I kind of thought, well, okay, maybe I'm a little being a little too critical of him. We'll see. But then I got to the introduction, and I'm not so sure. I probably was fine in my thinking, because he starts off just kind of talking about the historical views in heaven, nothing major, nothing critical. But then he says the things that start. The first thing he goes on is saying that we're not meant for an ethereal world like a spiritual world, because we weren't made for one. He says that we were put on earth because we were made for an earthly place. There's a major problem with that. Mainly just the idea of, if we were made for an earthly realm and not a spiritual realm, we weren't made for God. We were made for the earth. And the earth that's actually one of the first issues I had when I first heard about him, is we were made for God, not for the earth. The earth was made for us. We were not made for the earth. So, yeah, it's bad. Sorry. This is the first one I'm getting used to talking and walking, and my hands are freezing. Probably turn around here soon. And probably actually turn around here now. Last thing he kind of said, that this is something that made me laugh, and it's something. Oh, you can't see me anymore. There. It's something I heard before, and I just find it kind of funny. Is the idea? I imagine he'll talk more about this later, because he just kind of mentioned it in a sentence this time. But he said the idea of us being meant for a spiritual, ethereal world is an Eastern religion thing. And to which I had to say, where do you think Israel is? Christianity and Judaism are an Eastern religion. And I think we kind of forget that sometimes, that it's not something that Americans made up. It's not something anyone made up. It's something that happened back then. And yeah, not in the West. We have our own screwed up ideas in the West. Last thing, before I stop recording and feel like I should have done a better job on this, but it's the first episode. It's the 0th episode, technically. Is the last problem with what he said about us being made for an earthly world, not a spiritual world, is John 4:24 is the story of the woman in the well. And at one point Jesus says to her, God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. And based off what Randy Alcorn says, that means we're not meant to worship God, because we have to worship him in spirit, not in flesh. So, yeah. I'm sorry for this being kind of bumbly. I'm not used to talking in public to my phone. Hopefully the next one will go better. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I also have no clue if you can even hear me. We'll find that out, and we'll go on from there. Anyway, this is Seth. Been a thorn in my side. There's a tree behind me.